Danny Flexon for Seconds Out here with Richard Poxon, promoter of the big February 23rd fight on ITV box office between James DeGale and Chris Eubank Jr. First of all, just tell us how easy it was to put this fight together. Or not?
Oh, no, easy or not? No, it was fine. It's a fight that myself and Al have been speaking about probably from summer, as when we were looking at potential launch fights for this market, and it's one that's kind of just naturally works, and there's history between them both. The weights are right, the personalities are right, the abilities are right. Every ingredient you want for a good domestic fight is there.
Do you have targets in your mind for both the gates and for the pay-per-view views?
No, not really. No, it does. You can't ever do a target with the pay-per-view, can you? Who knows what it's going to do? You can have a hope that it reaches a certain amount, and whether that's on Sky, BT, or ITV, there's no cast iron formula at what it's going to do.
Have you got? You said you've got an idea or a hope of what it could do. Have you got a hope for this fight specifically?
No, I think it'll do really well. You can ask me as many different ways, Danny, as you want, and there's many different wording. No, you can keep wording it as many different ways as you want. No, listen, I think it'll do very, very well. I think it'll do well.
And just tell us, for people that aren't really aware, and that includes me in this, how do the roles kind of intersect between yourself, PBC and ITV box office? So who does what, basically?
I'll be doing as little as possible, obviously. No, the roles are, Premier Boxing Champions is the overall brand, and it's the overall stable. ITV is obviously the broadcaster, and Poxon Sport, that'll be the UK promoter for all the PBC events.
So in terms of kind of hands-on managing the shows, that's your domain?
We'll be a day-to-day, doing the deals with the boxers and running the events.
And how did that whole part of it come together itself, rather than just this fight? So PBC deciding to come to the UK and you deciding that you wanted to work with them also?
It's just kind of organically grown over the last couple of years. And just come together. Obviously, I'd done the stuff previously at ITV with Eubank. I'd had some conversations with Al, and we discussed the British market and what was happening here, and it was of an interest to him. And then we just looked at different ways of working it, and came up with a deal that worked for everybody.
What was the crucial factor that made both you and PBC decide now was the right time, rather than 2 years ago or a year in the future? Why now?
I don't know. It's just as sometimes if an opportunity presents itself and the time's right, then you do it, don't you? And I just think that was it. It just all kind of came together all at once, and it got done.
And part of the package is obviously the PBC fights in the US, starting with Pacquiao-Broner, which is a great fight to kick off the coverage.
I also think that other fight's a good fight. That was Kategui Plant. I think that's a really good fight at super middleweight.
Yeah, less high profile, but certainly a quality fight.
A great fight to watch, yeah.
I agree. What's the balance likely to be going forward between UK fights or UK shows and US based shows on the ITV platform?
It'll just be a mixture across all platforms. So there'll be some normal US shows like this. There'll be some US shows that may feature British kids that'll be then of interest back here, or of more interest back here, depending on what it is, and vice versa. There'll be some opportunity for American kids to come over here and fight, and there'll be the free-to-air and the pay-per-view shows here.
So does that mean you or PBC more so are looking to sign fighters in the UK market specifically for UK shows?
Not specifically just for UK shows, no, just to add to the Premier Boxing Champions roster. So wherever the fights work and make more sense for the boxers and everybody involved is where they can take place.
So if there are fighters out there that are currently free agents or maybe coming towards the end of deals or whatever it might be, what would you say to attract them, I guess, to PBC? What does PBC offer from a fighter's perspective? I
don't think that's for me to say, because obviously I don't own PBC, do I? But if you're a boxing fan or a boxer or a trainer and you don't know who the PBC are and the roster of boxers you've got, then you're doing something wrong, aren't you, if you don't know that? So I think, the results of what Al does and the events he does and the size of the events he does all speak for themselves, don't they?
You said you worked with Eubank before on ITV, obviously. Now you've got the big fight with DeGale. DeGale works with PBC, obviously. Yeah. Do you have kind of a dog in the fight or a horse in the race, if you like?
No, you know what? I don't know if dog in the fight's the right word, but I don't know if I really want to. I just want to, be a part of putting on the biggest and best events possible and let the best man win.
What will qualify?
Which is usually what happens, then, isn't it?
What would qualify as a successful launch show for you? What are you looking to achieve? What boxes are you looking to tick?
Just put on a great event, and listen, the bit we can't any of us control is how the fight goes off on the night. But I kind of expect this to be a really good fight, just because of the styles and where they both are. I expect it to be a really good fight.
What sort of thing can we expect from the undercard? Is there anything you've already got in mind?
Yeah, there's some things I'm discussing with Alan. There's some kids we're looking British and American, and there'll be some announcements in the next few days on that.
And how important is that to this PBC ITV model that you're obviously helming the UK shows for, that it's a stacked card rather than just a big selling main event?
No, listen, the quality of the cards has got to be strong. I mean, I bought White Chisora last week, and I'd been out earlier in the evening, so I missed most of the undercard. I only saw a couple of rounds of the flyweight Kid Edwards, and then what was the fight before? Buatsi. I saw that for what that were. I saw that. But you know, I paid me £20, and after I'd finished watching the fight, I was happy with what I'd watched. I mean, the difference with this deal, I believe, is, and the important thing in this deal is, the shows you're getting from America and the free-to-air shows, they're not costing you 1 pence. You know what I mean? You're not paying a subscription. Whereas, you know, I've got Sky, which is like, I don't know, 75, 80 quid a month or whatever for the full package. And there's a boxing show now every, what is it? If there's a free-to-air show once a month, you're kind of doing well, aren't you? And then if there's a good fight on, you're paying for it. So, you know, for me, I don't mind buying a pay-per-view fight. I want to see, you know, if there were, I'm not saying there will be, but you know, if there were 3 pay-per-views a month, I'd still be financially better off than paying for Sky Boxing, of which there's very little.
So is your thinking then that the pay-per-view fights on ITV, for example, will help to subsidise the free content that people are getting, like Pacquiao Brown?
I just think it'll all work together. I think once it's up and running and the fights start coming through and the quality, I mean, look, getting this Broner Pacquiao fight is a major event, you know, it's a major US event. I think the quality of it will help it build and roll on and build up, and they'll complement each other. Because look, you've got to be realistic, can't you? There's some fights where the expectations of the kids make it a pay-per-view. I mean, you know, every other broadcaster tried to get this fight for their station. So wherever it ended up, this fight was going to be a pay-per-view fight. Whether it ended up on Sky, ITV now, or BT, it was going to be a pay-per-view.
So obviously you're right at the heart of those negotiations.
Yeah.
Every other broadcaster wanted this fight. ITV got it. Why? What was the kind of crucial factor?
Because that's the fight that Al Haymon wanted to launch within the States. Sorry, not in the States, in Great Britain. So we went all out to get this fight and deliver it for ITV.
Brilliant. We really appreciate your time, and we wish you every success on the 23rd.
Thank you, Dan.
Cheers.